Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most gracious, the most merciful. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Peace be with you, and the mercy and blessings of God. Welcome to A-Level Maths live lesson. Today we're looking at simplifying algebraic fractions. Just a very simple one for you to have a go at. We want you to try and simplify 10 over 15. And then once you've done that, simplify slightly harder one, but very easy. 2x over 5x. And then if you can try simplifying 2x plus 5x squared over 7x. Just give you a minute to do those. Okay, let me explain the principle here. Hopefully none of the first two were any problem for you, but what's the principle behind this? The principle is simply that if you have the same number divided by the same number, so 10 divided by 10, the same number divided by the same number, it's always going to give you 1. That's the principle here. So whether that number is 10 or whether it's x divided by itself is always going to give you 1. 17 divided by 17, it's the same number divided by the same number. It's always going to give you 1. So when you're looking at a fraction, whether it's 10 over 15, 2x over 5x, 2x plus 5x squared over 7x, if you can try and make it look like the same number divided by the same number, at least in part of the fraction, then you know that part is going to divide into 1, is going to divide and become 1, which will make it much, much simpler to write the fraction. So let me give you an example. The 10, we could write 10 as 2 times 5. We could also write 15 as 3 times 5. And you'll hopefully see that we've got, with the times by 5, we've got the same number 5 being divided by the same number 5. So whenever you have the same number being divided by itself, then that's just going to become 1. So that's just going to become 1. We don't even have to write the 1, but I'm just going to put it in here just so that you can see we're not doing anything funny, or nothing's disappearing. But 1 divided by 1 is just 1, so it doesn't really matter, and anything times 1 is just itself. So writing times by 1 is not going to make a difference, so we're just left with 2 over 3. That's just to show you the principle. But what you're trying to spot is any number on the top that's the same as any number on the bottom, and you know that any number divided by itself is going to be 1. So x divided by x, that's just going to be 1. And we don't need to write the times 1 because the times 1 won't change anything, but I could write 1 divided by 1. Could put there's a times 1, but I'm just Just going to skip that. So all we're left with is 2 over 5. Okay, now here, do we have the same number being divided by the same number? Almost, but just to make it look more obvious, if you notice just the top here, the 2x plus 5x squared, we can spot that x is a common factor. So that means x is in both. That means we can write that as, we can factorize that. So we can have x at the front of the bracket, and then 2 plus 5x inside the bracket. And I can replace that. I can replace the 2x plus 5x squared with the bracket version. And now you can see that I've got x on the top being divided by x on the bottom. So that's just going to become 1. That's going to cancel. So I'll be left with 2 plus the 5x on the top and just the 7 on the bottom. And we don't need the brackets, so I can get rid of them. There's nothing on the outside of the brackets, so that's why I can get rid of them. And that's simplifying algebraic fractions. You're trying to look for the common factor, trying to make something on the top be lined up with something on the bottom, and then using the principle that the same number divided by the same number is always going to be 1. So let's see if I can show you the example from the book. So this time you try. I'm probably going to change the pink. Simplify ax plus az divided by ay. I've changed it around a bit, but the principle is the same. So in fact, let me make it exactly the same as what the book has. And have a go. Just try to spot how you can make it, rearrange it or manipulate it, change it a bit so that you've got the same number being divided by the same number, and see what you get. Okay, hopefully that's been quite easy for you. Just give you a few more seconds. Write your answer if you can in the chat box. See if you can, at the beginning of the lesson you didn't know the technique, and see now if you can improve, if you have improved by using the technique. Try to rearrange, try to just factorize or manipulate it so that you've got the same number divided by itself, and then that'll make it a lot simpler. I think you've done it. X plus y over z is perfect. So just to show you that you're right and how we get that, we spot at the top here the ax plus the ay. There's a common factor, the a, So we can bring that out at the beginning of the bracket. That's leaving me with x plus y inside the bracket. And I can replace the bracket version with what was there originally. And now if I look very quickly, I can see I've got the same number being divided by the same number. So a divided by a, that will cancel, that will become 1, and there's no need to write the 1. So you're just left, once you remove the brackets, with x plus y on the top and z on the bottom. Okay, perfect. Okay, mashallah, the good news is that that's the end of that section on algebraic fractions. So you need to keep up with the practice questions. You should be working through, this is chapter 3, should have worked through at least half a chapter a week in terms of practice questions. So you're finishing a complete chapter every 2 weeks. Regardless of whether I've gone through them in these lessons, you've got to just work through it at that pace. Otherwise, you're gonna not finish all the practice by the end of the year. But at least for the next lesson, try to get that first half of this chapter 3 done, and then you can join me tomorrow for laws of indices, inshallah, if God wills. See you then. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.